Hi everyone, Kelly Moran here, providing a quick 15-minute overview on the science of reading. I've heard from many teachers that they're interested in getting more professional development on this topic, and I thought since we all live such busy lives that putting together some screencasts in the amount of 15-minute digestible chunks would be somewhat helpful to those who are interested in learning more. So to get started, I of course want to refer back to our mission because I'm so proud to work in a district that everything we do and every venture we take or new journey we embark on, we're often asking each other, how is this related to the mission? Because why would we want to be investing time and energy and resources into something that is not tied to high achievement for all students, where learning is our most important work? So as I talk to you today about the science of reading, that topic, I want you to think in your head, how is what you're learning about the science of reading related to high achievement for all of our students? The purpose of today's slideshow is to start generating a more widespread general understanding of science of reading and what we mean when we say science of reading. I think to do that, though, before we can even get to the definition of science of reading and what cognitive scientists have informed us of, I want to start today with data, local data in Chardon, statewide data pertaining to reading, and our national data for reading, because I think that really sets the stage for why we're even talking about this concept of science of reading and why there's a growing widespread movement to help us as educators learn about this field. So again, as we're talking, I just want you to be thinking in your mind of how all of this correlates to our current instructional practices in Chardon, and also how this relates to the state's literacy plan. We are employed in a state that has a very well-developed literacy plan that has some very specific recommendations for how we should be teaching literacy to our students. So we just want to make sure that what we're doing here in Chardon mirrors that expectation that has been set for us by the state. So, do we have a reading crisis? In having conversations with people this year, I've heard some teachers say, what is the big urgency? What is this huge push on science of reading? Where did this come from? Aren't we doing good things in Chardon? Our kids are happy. They enjoy reading. They get good grades on their report cards and they're jumping Lexile levels. And yes, I would affirm all of that. I do believe that we are doing amazing, wonderful, well-founded things in Chardon. However, I'm also a growth mindset person, and I believe that we can always do better and strive for higher levels of excellence. And when I look at data and I see that there are students who under our care are not reading proficiently on grade level and are in danger of potentially dropping out of high school, or are in danger of not reading proficiently as an adult when they leave us upon graduation, that to me affirms that we do have a crisis. We have an area that we need to address and remedy, and so we need to be well informed of the best way to address that problem. So what you're seeing here is an infographic from one of my favorite websites. It's called readingisfundamental.com. And for the sake of the time today, I'm not going to tell you too much about that website, but I would encourage you to go there at some point. If you ever do have time, there are plenty of case studies there, webinars, quick guides for teachers. There's a lot of really good stuff there. And one of the things they do is present data that has been collected from NAEP, National Assessment for Educational Progress, which is also known as the nation's report card. And so what this is telling us is 34% of our students entering kindergarten are lacking basic skills that they need to learn how to read. Sounds like a pretty big number to me. Look at this one. 63% of fourth graders in our country read below grade level. That contributes to close to 8,000 students who drop out of high school every day. That to me is crisis level. 37% of our students who graduate, only 37% of them are reading at or above reading proficiency. The website also has data that is specific to just our state of Ohio. So let me take you there so you can see how Ohio fares in comparison to other states. Here's their website. Here's the infographic you just saw. If you continue to scroll down, you can click right on Ohio, and you'll see that 64% of our fourth grade students are not reading on grade level. This blue arrow means that, yes, we did meet and exceed the national average, but take a look at what the average is. It's 221, and we scored 222. So we barely skimmed by. The breakdown of students in our state reading below basic are 32%. 32% are also reading at the basic level. Only 28% of our students are reading at a proficient level. And even smaller, only 8% of our students are reading at an advanced level. So again, this is a crisis to me. When I see 64% of fourth grade students not reading on grade level, that is of concern to me. So I mentioned the nation's report card, the National Assessment for Educational Progress. Every 2 years since 1969, this assessment is given to grade 4 and grade 8 students in both reading and math. And the crisis is, the alarm is that the scores have gone down. Since 1969, we're learning so many new things. We have modern technologies, we have advances in research, and yet we can't seem to advance our students to higher levels in reading and in math. So I'll take you to this report. In all of those areas, grade 4 reading, grade 4 math, grade 8 reading, grade 8 math, everything went down except for grade 4 math. Everything, all of our scores from 2019, when we compared them to 2017, they all went down except for grade 4 mathematics. And here's some more charts that give you the specific data for that. I'm going to breeze ahead, though, again, for the sake of time down here, because I think this infographic is more telling. If we're looking at the percentages of students who are at above proficient, that didn't change in math or reading since 2017. It didn't change. It actually went down. In 2017, we had 37% of students who were reading at or above proficient. In 2019, we had 35% in fourth grade. Percentage of students reading proficient in grade 8 was only 36 to begin with, which is alarming, and it went down in 2019. So we really have to question ourselves, why is this happening in our country? This infographic is also pretty neat as well. It shows the country, so we can again zero in on Ohio, but I want to show you first what the colors mean. So a dark blue means that scores went up for that test. Gray means that scores stayed the same, and the teal blue means that scores decreased. So again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to focus on math. I want us to just look at reading. In Ohio, in grade 4 reading, look, light blue, our scores went down. Grade 8 reading, they stayed the same. So I guess on the one hand, I can sigh, relief that we didn't go down, but why haven't we gotten better? That's, for me, the crisis that we need to be considering and talking about. So I mentioned Ohio's literacy plan. Our state has a very comprehensive 50-page literacy plan that was written 2 years ago. It was actually updated this year to be completely aligned and also completely prescribing methodology and pedagogy aligned with the science of reading. And throughout the plan are several data sources and data references to cognitive science. But at the beginning of the plan is literacy data specific to our kids in Ohio. So I again want to share this with you so you know why we're even talking about the science of reading. Over a third of our kindergarten students in Ohio, which is more than 73%, are not on track at the beginning of the year for literacy. 28% of all students in K-3 are not on track in the beginning of the year. Certain subgroups, it was actually as high as 60%. State AIR assessments for grades 3 to 7, 40% of those students not scoring proficient in ELA. Over half of grade 8 students are not proficient, and over half of our seniors are not meeting college and career readiness benchmarks for reading on the ACT. Chardon also has a literacy plan, which mirrors and parallels the state's plan. That's what we modeled it after. And this work started with committees at each building 2 years ago, and they met several times to complete a reading tiered fidelity inventory. And once we compiled that data, then we expanded the committee to include people outside of our agency. So we included representatives as an example from libraries, vocational schools, higher education, universities. We also included some parents on that committee as well. And we developed a plan that has 10 literacy goals. But similar to the state's literacy plan, and the beginning of ours is data that's specific to our Chardon students. And so we found in 2018, 2019 that 10% of our kindergarten students were not on track. And what's alarming is that that significantly increases when we look at first grade students in the beginning of the year. 35% of our first graders are not on track for literacy a year later. More than a quarter of our students K-3 are not on track with reading, and 12 out of our close to 200 students in grade 3 overall did not meet the promotion score on the state test, putting them at risk of retention. When we honed in on just our Title I population, some of our most at-risk readers, 73% of them in grades 2 and 3 are not reading on grade level according to their MAP test. So almost all of our Title I students in grades 2 to 3 are reading below grade level. To me, that is crisis level. Less than half of our Title I students met their MAP ELA target. Less than half of them. So again, for me, that is up there at crisis level. Our local report card for 17-18 showed that we did not meet, I highlighted in yellow just the tests that are related to literacy. So in 17-18, we did not meet grade 7 ELA and English 1 and English 2. On the 18-19 report card, we did meet grade 7 ELA. However, we failed to meet grade 6 ELA. And for the second report card in a row, we did not meet English 2. What you're seeing here is when we look closely at our MAP data and we look at the grade levels, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if we took all of the students in those grade levels and looked at how they did on the MAP test, and then we put them into these 5 buckets here, so to speak, 5 quintiles, what you see is that each year a student progresses in a grade level, more and more students fall into the lowest quintile. So our bucket of lowest quintile students gets higher every year those kids get older and move on to a new grade level. So of course the opposite, the inverse is happening in the highest quintile. As students progress through the grade levels, we see fewer and fewer of them scoring in the highest range. At our middle school, we use a literacy program called Achieve 3000, and it tracks students' Lexile levels and helps them improve their Lexile levels. But this specific report that you're looking at here shows how likely students are to be on track for college and career when the Ohio State test is administered to them. And what I want to point out is this qualifier of FFB, far below. For some of our classes, like this one jumps out at me. For a class of 23 students in our middle school, 43% of them are far, far below the mark they need to be considered on track. Another one that jumps out in this class of 24 students, 25% of them are far, far below. Here's a class where 29% are far, far below. You can see 12% down here. So what are we doing for these students who are in the middle school that are not meeting the mark and not on track where they need to be? When I think of them coming to school each and every day struggling, that makes me feel like we have a crisis. I also wanted to include data on the number of title referrals we have for each school year, so you could take a look. Even if we just had only one referral for Title I students, that's enough for me to want to learn more about this topic of the science of reading and help teach me how we can better support our students who are struggling to read. So you'll see that the numbers have been pretty stable, but look at how high the percentages are of kids who need our help each year to close a gap.